Hi everyone, welcome to another G News update. Well, today it's midterm roughly, so that means that Audrey Young has written her midterm cabinet report card in the New Zealand Herald this morning, and she's been at pains to point out that it's subjective and it's not really about whether you agree with the really harmful policies that have been implemented in the last year and a half by this government, but more about how effectively they have delivered those policies to us, in her opinion. So let's get right into it and have a look at what Audrey is saying about the performance of the current cabinet. Christopher Luxon scores 8 out of 10, which is the same score that Audrey gave him a year ago when she did this same report card. And she ironically says that he's on the improve, even though her scores are still the same. And he's on the improve for a whole bunch of optical reasons, nothing to do with substance. And this has to do with how he held an investor summit that delivered no deals, swung a cricket bat over in India, which revealed he wasn't a very good cricket player, and also that that had nothing to do with whether or not trade talks resumed, because they'd already been agreed to resume before he even got to India. And then how he had this trip to the UK where he got hit by a shell casing, read out a speech that was written for him at Gallipoli, and wore the wrong colour suit to the Pope's funeral. So all of this, according to Audrey, has really been a big improvement since he failed to come clean to Mike Hosking about the shenanigans behind the Andrew Bailey resignation and why it took so long, and how come he couldn't just give a straight answer when asked if he would have sacked Bailey had Bailey not resigned. So the improve is really a figment of the imagination of a few people in the press gallery. Really, it's got nothing to do with anything tangible that's been delivered or the effectiveness of any policies really that have been delivered. In the time that we've seen this review happen, Luxon has presided over a national party that has lost ground in the polls, and this should have actually marked him down. His support is down about 5% since the election, at least. National hovering around 32, 33% in most polls on average. And Luxon is also dwelling down in the basement when it comes to net favourability scores. So how he gets 8 out of 10 from Audrey Young in any objective world would be an impossibility. But in a subjective world where partisan politics and you can suck up to whoever's running your media organisation, or your job is really to keep a national party in power to serve the interests of the media organisation, then I guess, you know, that would be the stretch, a subjective stretch, to say that Luxon was 8 out of 10. I mean, come on. I mean, who buys that? Really? I mean, this is a shocker of a Prime Minister, a person that's actually not genuine, unconnected to everybody. Nobody believes a word he says. He takes credit for things that aren't anything to do with the National Party. And when inflation goes back up, like it has recently, you know, he's saying, oh, well, look, it's still in the band. His plans haven't worked. There's no growth at the moment. And now we're facing austerity. So from a G News point of view, I'd give it a 2 out of 10 for Luxon. It's been a shocker, a terrible display of how not to lead and to be run around by the nose by your junior coalition partners. Next up is Winston Peters, who Audrey marks 8 out of 10. Because he's pretty good at foreign affairs, apparently, so people say, but we didn't see anything but self-praise from Winston Peters when he went and visited the United States, and New Zealand still copped the unilateral 10% increase in tariffs, and he came back and immediately went into a war on woke, and he went into a war against Benjamin Doyle. He stirred up a whole bunch of conspiratorial nonsense that resulted in death threats and real harm being caused. So Winston Peters, in Audrey's opinion, is 8 out of 10 for all these kind of things, but in actual fact, he's a bit of a blight, really, and the whole fist shaking at Corin Dan and threatening to defund Radio New Zealand unless he got interviewed without any kind of challenge at all. That sort of behaviour should have marked him down in any objective rating from Audrey Young, but partisan politics will give this guy 8 out of 10 on really just the smell of an oily rag, a rumour. He's been cantankerous, badly behaved in Parliament, interrupting everything, having to be told to sit down all the time. A real sort of blight on democracy, really, I think. And so from a G News point of view, I'd give this guy about 2 out of 10 as well. I mean, I just think it's been a shocker the way, this populist authoritarian borrowing of imported culture wars. They don't like it when you tell them the facts that it is an imported culture war that's come from the United States and the United Kingdom, because that is exactly what it is. And so, this guy's just a menace barking at us all. And he certainly doesn't deserve 8 out of 10 that Audrey Young has given him. Then we've got Nicola Valentine Willis, who Audrey has marked down from 8 to 7 out of 10 this time round, suggesting that she's had about as many unders as she has had overs. We cannot forgive, really, the debacle around the ferries. I mean, that was just rude, sending a text to South Korea an hour before making an announcement without any kind of plan B, and then sitting around for a year on top of that whole schmozzle, and then handing it over, having done nothing at all, and basically saying, I have delivered, when you hadn't delivered a damn thing. I mean, the public have been mollycoddled, and she's been protected with a lot of immunity by the press, who seem reluctant to get stuck in and give her the fair criticism that she deserves. But really, for Audrey to give a 7 out of 10 is very, very generous for someone that led us all into the deepest recession since 1991, and then at the same time did all sorts of backpedaling when it came to over-egging Family Boost, and how she was lashing out at anyone that criticised her about the uptake there and how it was very poor, and then in the end blamed Inland Revenue in a fit of hypocrisy compared to the way she behaved when a small error in the data from Inland Revenue meant that some people who weren't living in New Zealand got paid out in Labour's cost of living allowance. So the hypocrisy was rank in the air, and Nicola Willis does not deserve 7 out of 10 that Audrey Young is giving her. I'd say she deserves 1 out of 10, and the only reason I give her 1 out of 10 is because at least she pitches up and makes ridiculous arguments and tries to fight for the Atlas Network austerity program using arguments that don't stack up. But at least she does pitch up and fight for that. So for that, 1 point. But for everything else, it's just harmful to New Zealand, and it's wrong, and she's got to go, basically. She's not a 7 out of 10. She's a 1 out of 10. Then we've got Bishop. Bishop is one of Audrey's favourite little pets. She just loves Chris Bishop beyond belief. She's swooning away, thinking that he's busy and hardworking and that he's got fast track over the line. She does mention that Bishop, on 9 out of 10, has used urgency too much, which is a way of saying, I can't handle the arguments, I can't handle due process, I'm just going to railroad through what I want. Bishop has been very poor when it comes to bipartisanship. He's torn down the RMA that was in place, put there after a lot of consultation and work by David Parker, a balanced RMA. He's ripped it down and put his Atlas Network fast track RMA in place, which favours property rights over the environment and flies in the face of the balance that we need in New Zealand. Audrey doesn't see anything wrong with that. She thinks it's 9 out of 10, just chop down every tree, pollute every river, kill every fish, shoot the kiwi. It's really a case of values here. Do you care about the environment at all, the foundation that from which everything else comes from, that makes our way of life possible? Or do you follow Chris Bishop, who also said that there would only be one store open in Northland if we didn't adopt big tobacco rhetoric and worry about a black market, and therefore repeal smoke-free legislation that would have saved 5,000 lives. Audrey thought that was 9 out of 10. Bishop's cronyism with Sir Bill English over a few texts in order to tell a fake story about Kayanga Ora. Bishop did a bit of a con job there on Kayanga Ora and made them just a landlord rather than building houses. He slowed down house building. There are 13,000 fewer jobs in construction now, thanks to Bishop. This is the kind of effectiveness that makes Audrey glow. She thinks that this is 9 out of 10 stuff. 13,000 jobs gone. Bishop has also been caught out many times on Television New Zealand Breakfast when he comes up against Karen McAnulty, who just shreds Bishop argument after argument and brings the facts forward about his support for Simeon Brown, for example, his support for Tama Pōtaka and the shrinking list for emergency housing. Kieran just tells it like it is, and the public see that. So Bishop's got no business getting 9 out of 10. I'd give him 3 out of 10 for at least, attempting to change things. But what he's doing is tearing things down. He's making things worse. He's implementing libertarian values. He may as well be working for ACT. And seriously, he's more of a harm than a good. And so I think a 3 out of 10 maximum for Christopher Bishop, not 9 out of 10 like Audrey says. Simeon Brown, what can you say? Well, Audrey's marked Simeon Brown down by 1 point, down to 8 from 9, because Simeon Brown has the health portfolio now. And Audrey says that he is a victim of his own success, apparently, because he sped up the speed at which cars will go past schools and ignored safety experts. So that was a big success, according to Audrey Young. Apparently the policies themselves we may not agree with, but it's how he delivered it by just ramming it through regardless of any evidence, and that's a good thing. I mean, regardless of any evidence about safety, just ignore it. 9 out of 10, but now down to 8 out of 10, because in health, it's become pretty clear that when Audrey praises Simeon Brown for cleaning out the leadership, this is a rout, this is a takeover, a kind of a stacking of the decks. The whole levy thing was a big muck up. The entire cancer drug thing was a huge bungle. The way in which health has been gutted and needed more money, and the front line has suffered. The disguising of the vacancies, and for 12 months nobody could hire anyone to fill those vacancies while the government said that, oh well, there is no job freeze, but there was really, and everybody started singing out in health, and now we've got 5,000 doctors going on strike under Simeon Brown, who attacked them all for their wages and branded them as greedy when he's paid more than they are for a lot less work and study and qualifications. He's an unqualified person to have the health ministry. Really, Simeon Brown should not be getting 8 out of 10 from Audrey Young for that shocking, appalling and disgusting performance where he has attacked doctors, and on Thursday, that's tomorrow, we should see some kind of backlash against Simeon Brown. It's New Zealand and the public health system against Simeon Brown. That is what's going on, and maybe Audrey Young can't see it, or maybe she's just trying to blow smoke and keep this government in power for another term to do more damage. Can't really say, but that's just how I see it. I would give Simeon Brown 0 out of 10. I think he's been a really bad performer. I think he has not listened to anyone, and he's come in with a dogmatic Atlas Network agenda to downgrade public health in New Zealand and ripen it all up for privatisation. And I just don't think we need that, and I don't think anyone wants that, and that's not what people voted for when they voted for change at all. 0. Erica Stanford, the golden girl. Well, she's gone down a peg as well. She's down on 8, previously on 9, according to Audrey Young. However, teachers would beg to differ, with Erica being an 8 out of 10, that her structured literacy is really the entire answer to everything. We haven't seen improvements in areas like school lunches. We haven't seen improvements in school attendance, really, anything significant. And what we have seen is Erica swiping money off Te Reo and applying it elsewhere, and not paying attention to the evidence that many of Maori and Pacific Island people thrive when you do more cultural-based teaching methods. Erica, from my point of view, 5 out of 10. It's pretty average, nothing amazing to rant about. Certainly shouldn't be given a 7. Goldsmith. Now, I think Goldsmith got a 7 out of 10 from Audrey, which is kind of par for the course. Goldsmith, Paul Goldsmith, what's he done? Well, he sat on his hands about the Fair Digital News Bargaining Bill. He's just sitting around waiting for Australia to make a move. He may as well have not taken that over from Melissa Lee, who Audrey has no time for, but he's basically done exactly the same as Melissa Lee. He's also bungled up the Marine Area Coastal Act amendments because he didn't listen to the fact that the Supreme Court already had a process in train reviewing a Court of Appeal decision. So Goldsmith's got a tin ear, hasn't listened, and possibly one of the most shocking things that Goldsmith did was to implement a kind of vigilante, take the law into your own hands, citizens arrest policy that has nothing to do with any kind of evidence, against all the recommendations of people who are experts. And he just carried on with it anyway. I mean, Goldsmith's been a menace in his role, so he shouldn't be getting a high rating from Audrey Young, who has rated him, I think, 7 out of 10. So again, I would give Goldsmith something like 2 out of 10. I think he's been a shocker. I think decisions have been rash. They're not evidence-based. And he's kind of just lashed out at Maori and really just ignored the judiciary. And I think he's got no business in the role. Louise Upson, I'm going to muck around here. This person has punched down on people who are vulnerable, who need the money, and put people at risk in this country with her unwarranted sanctions that make rich people, some of them, feel very, very good and superior by hurting and harming those that are on the breadline. A lot of these people have never experienced poverty, and it's just a disgrace, and it's disgusting. And Audrey Young has no business giving her 7 out of 10 and saying that she's a solid performer. Judith Collins has done very little indeed to be given 9 out of 10. I mean, there's something here that Audrey admires about Judith Collins, and I'm not sure what it could be. Maybe it's the praying in the chapel. Possibly it's something to do with getting the Awakuni and Pyro icons mixed up, carrots and LMP bottles. But Judith Collins has been a chapter of errors, and she's bungled around in defence. It's been a pretty easy, cruisy job to kind of blame other people, human error, over the sinking of a naval ship, and there's really been nothing that Collins has done that justifies 9 out of 10 at all, other than the fact that the United States has said that we should spend more money on defense, and we have kowtowed and bent down low, and now we're going to cut the crap out of all of our public services in order to spend it on defense. And I mean, that kind of, thinking might appeal to someone like Audrey and give an inflated score to someone that's undeserving like Collins. But don't forget, Collins has also driven a lot of scientists out of New Zealand with the gutting of aspects of the Marsden Fund, and that's just like a disgrace as well. It's really bad for New Zealand, and there's no way that Audrey Young should be giving this person 9 out of 10 on her actual objective performance. Mark Mitchell, as they say on BHN. Hey, Pat. What I think about Mark Mitchell right now is that he has pitched up and tried to sell us a bunch of crook figures that have come off the internet about violent crime. Then they've mixed and matched quarterly and annual statistics that have a great deal of statistical noise in them to try and infer that they've already reached their targets and that law and order has been effectively restored when it hasn't been. We've got a record level of meth in the wastewater right now, thanks to this government's attack on borders and custom control in April 2024. That's when the trend began, and it's just skyrocketed. These people have really let us down. We've also got Mark Mitchell presiding over a police force that's allowed 3 people to slip by into the police graduate force without passing their physical exams. So the standards are slipping under Mark Mitchell. Audrey Young gives him 8 out of 10 for all of this. She thinks that's been just dandy and great. The wardrobe police, it hasn't really been effective. It's really stopped no crime. We've got this raging supply of methamphetamine going on while people are worried about what clothes people wear and what symbols they have, what t-shirts they might be wearing, what's under the bed. I mean, it's just a joke, really, isn't it? Crime is not down. Crime is basically level or up, if anything. So for me, Mark Mitchell's a 2 out of 10. Just a whole lot of bullshit going on right there with Mark Mitchell. It's a snow job, and it's not helped when Audrey Young is so partisan about this guy and not real. Todd Trade-McClay, well, what has Todd done? Todd's taken a lot of credit for the Gulf Cooperation trade agreement and with the UAE that was all set up and took many years since 2007 to put that in place. The UAE came out here in May 2023 asking to resume free trade talks, and Damien O'Connor went over there in September 2023, set it all up. Then there was an election. Todd came in and stole the credit, and now Audrey Young thinks he's 8 out of 10 because look how he has inked that deal. Wow, good on you, Todd. You know, everybody else does the work. You come in and sign something. Clap, clap, clap. Well done, Todd. 8 out of 10. Seriously, Todd is what we would call a glory seeker or a poser, whatever. He's basically travels around, does very little, and basically steals the credit. One of the things that Damien O'Connor said about trade is that it really should be a non-partisan affair. It's in our interest, no matter who's in government, to do these kind of deals. So giving fake credit to Todd McClay for travelling to India and doing the UAE deal is just wrong. I'd give Todd about 4 or 5 out of 10 maybe, just because he did pitch up. He went over there and he talked to people. But whether it was effective or not is completely, the jury's out. Who knows? I mean, and now we've got talks, but we had talks before with India, and it could go on for a long, long time. We may not be getting much out of it either. So there are some things that won't be on the table with India. That Todd was very upset with us because we didn't get many of those things with the EU. But look at the situation now. We do have to cooperate and keep talking. So from G News, about 4 or 5 out of 10 for Todd. Tama Potaka, well, Audrey Young gives him 6 out of 10. He's been a bit dodgy. He's mucked up a few things. He's got things wrong. He's misunderstood things. But I think one of the worst things that he does is he says he's proud when people are confronting with him with his emergency housing policy. I think that's been a shocker. I also think the way that homelessness is just dismissed, and this guy keeps saying he's proud, but people are being put on the streets, and the whole advocacy network, all the providers that deal with people are not being listened to by Tama Potaka or the Prime Minister. So they've got their hands over their ears about the problems that they're causing because they don't have a good excuse for it. And so 6 out of 10 from Audrey Young is way too high for this kind of carry on. This is a 0. Sorry, Tama. And also your pride over what they're doing in the Hauraki Gulf, by bringing in commercial fishing in highly protected zones, that's just environmental vandalism, and this is just wrong, and it's a betrayal of all things Te Ao Māori, in my view. So 0 for you. Shane Jones, in wanting to kill all of the frogs and all of the other natural world in order to start up coal mines, doing dodgy deals, looking corrupt, hanging around, not putting things in his diary. Well, you can give that 8 out of 10 if you like, Audrey, but I don't think that that's on. I don't think that that's the kind of character that we want in our government. This guy's just been stirring up things that aren't true, fake news, false news, disinformation. If that's all highly valuable, an 8 out of 10, well, that's just wrong. It's not. It's a 0 again. Shane Jones has been a pain in the ass in Parliament. And I think overall he's a bag of wind. He calls himself the god of wind. He's an empty vessel. He makes the most noise. And I don't think New Zealand really needs any more of it. And the sooner we see the back of him, the better. 0 for this guy. This guy and his fake co-governance in the Waitakere Ranges can go get stuffed as far as I'm concerned. 0 out of 10. Davey Seymour, I mean, what a great success. 8 out of 10 for those school lunches. I mean, everyone hated them. People threw them out. The wastage is through the roof. They've burned people, they've hurt people, they've harmed people. We've imported lunches from Australia. The corporate due diligence wasn't there. He didn't advise Erica. It was a shocker of a performance. Could hardly have been worse, but still Audrey Young gives David Seymour 8 out of 10 for his effectiveness, because people are throwing out his lunches. Everyone hates it. It's been a complete abysmal shambles and a failure. But 8 out of 10 from Audrey Young. How credible is that, Audrey? Wow, yeah, everyone believes that. Not only that, but Seymour's Treaty Principles Bill has been a debacle. 90% of the submissions from experts, historians, people that we value, that actually do the grind, know the facts, telling us the truth. Came up against 10% of cookers and people who are prejudiced or racist, and their fake arguments didn't wash. And that got sent down the dunny. So 8 out of 10 from Audrey Young for that. Well done, David Seymour. David Seymour is currently trying to rip the guts out of our regulations by stacking his ministry of regulation full of highly overpaid, libertarian valued people. And we've also got him getting into Farm Act. God knows what he's going to do in there, but it doesn't look good. So 8 out of 10 from Audrey Young. This is another 0. If I could give a minus score, I would. Minus 20 for David Seymour. What a twat. Please go away. Do not bother our country again. You have been wrong for us. You've caused too much harm. Goodbye. And Casey Costello, well, what can you say? Have a cigarette. Light up, Casey. Well, you know, the harm that's done there to all of those people that would have quit smoking, that are still smoking, all of the $216 million in tax cuts to big tobacco, eh? To give this woman 6 out of 10 for what she's done is also an anathema. I think she's probably a 0 as well. And we want to see the back of this as well. Like, just get these people out. They have no business being anywhere near the health portfolio or anywhere near government, to be honest. So that's my rating there. That'll do. So that's all I wanted to say today about Audrey Young's ratings. I just wanted to quickly go through them all with you and just sort of kind of bring some more objective reality to what's really been going on, as some people in our media try to prop up this government when it's a shocker and it shouldn't be in government any longer, but they're giving them 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 7 out of 10 anyway, and that's just wrong. That's partisan propaganda and we need to challenge it. So hope you have a nice Wednesday and enjoy yourselves today. And don't forget the big day tomorrow. There's a nationwide strike on at 5,000 doctors, a whole lot of nurses, people that do caretaking for the sick are all going on strike. And you can find the nearest location where you can go and join these protests at the PSA website. Have a great day. See you all later.